Yeah, I'm kind of wondering how, like, did you expect, and again, you talk about this in the book, but I'm curious on a deeper dive, did you expect the whole journey to be kind of as emotional as it ended up being? You know, the various times, you know, through training, leading up to the race itself, all the emotions that you kind of, I'll say, suffered through, but experienced. Did you anticipate that, or was that kind of a surprise to you?
I didn't. I didn't because when you look at it from the outside, you think it's just like, okay, I mean, it's just like an athletic event. Okay, maybe you'll have some emotions of just nervousness or, excitement or whatever. But what I was surprised was when you're experiencing such physical agony, as I'll
Mm-hmm.
describe it, where your mind takes you and
Mm-hmm.
what you think of. It's almost like your life is flashing before your eye. I mean, that's a little dramatic, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like things would come into my head that, I'd picture friends, I would picture family, I would have these kind of like deep emotional conversations with myself, while as a result of this physical agony. And
Mm-hmm.
grinding that out was something that, it's almost like meditative. I've always kind of, you're walking on a treadmill, you let your mind go, it kind of, it goes through all the problems you're having. Well, okay, walking on a treadmill, that could be hard, I guess, but that's nothing compared to, going on a 100-mile bike ride, right? So
Right.
when you get into these situations and you're really now like at the bottom of your barrel, like what your mind and emotions come up with was really surprising. But what I was also surprised about is how quickly your mind can cure your body.
Mm-hmm.
You can be like head down at a stoplight 1 second and, then work through that in your mind and coming back to this like extreme confidence or determination or whatever, turning that corner again, how quickly, your mental state will affect your physical state. And
Mm-hmm.
so in terms of that, I was surprised because I just thought it was more straightforward of like, okay, you train, and if you trained hard enough and you're good enough shape, you're going to be able to do it. But when you're talking about a distance this long, it's just inevitable that something is going to come up, whether it's a cramp or a nagging or, just in my case, being completely unprepared. So stuff's coming out of left field all the time at you didn't know about because,
Yeah.
I never made it the full in my training, like the full distances. I
Mm-hmm.
never, I think the furthest I ran was 14 miles
Yeah.
once, So, I was nowhere close. So you're in the unknown. And so that really surprised me just how your mental, how deep mentally you can go in
Mm-hmm.
terms of your suffering or like what you're perceiving, thinking about even some like of the deepest, darkest things, just because you're being ripped down, you're being totally torn down as an
Mm-hmm.
individual. And my God, that was an experience. That was
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, you feel that way,
Yeah,
or
no,
not for
yeah.
you? It's
So,
just
like my first 70.3 experience, um, I I had kind of similar snafus as you did. Um, with the race, I had a flat tire before the race even started. And luckily, the bike technicians lent me an entirely different wheel because I have a kind of wheel that you can't replace it. It's a tubular, so the tire is the tube. You can't just replace it. It's glued on.
oh
So
my
he had to
God.
lend me an entirely different wheel. So then my food got messed up, and I like got tunnel vision. My vision was literally going black for the last like 5 miles of the run. Ended up in the medical tent in the end. I was just like just so out of it, so emotional. And I kept just being like, I didn't, my goal was to qualify for as a professional. I think I ended up maybe like 4 hours 40 minutes for that first one. I really need to be around like 4 hours 15, so not even close. And I kept just being like, this is dumb. Like, why am I doing this? After as I'm sitting in the medical tent, and my coach always says, especially when it comes to big decisions, do not make any big decisions right after a race. You're always way too emotional because you're so drained physically. You think you're maybe in the right state of mind to make a decision, but you simply aren't. You're not capable of making big decisions at that point in time because of the toll your body's taken physically, mentally, spiritually. So yeah, I've certainly been through the ringer a number of times, which is why I haven't had the desire to do a full because I know how hard I push myself through the halves. I'm like, I might die on the full. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
I
why I back down.
I wish I could offer some perspective. I have no perspective to offer.
Yeah,
I've never done the shorter ones.
right.
So, but they seem more intense because it's all
You
about
got to go
speed and
faster.
like, yeah, like crazy, like all you got because the distance, it's really the speed with which you do the distance, not necessarily, and your approach is much different than mine. And this was a big
Right,
separator between a lot of people and myself because my goal, as much as it annoyed, I think the serious racers like yourself, like I was just my whole goal from the very beginning was like, let me just see if I can finish. It was never about a certain
right,
time. It
right.
was never about, oh, I want to, impress people with this or that. It was just like, let me see if I can survive this.
Mhm.
And that was, so that's, I think, a big distinction because, um, you're now like empty in the tank, whereas I'm just trying to drag myself as far
Right,
as I can go.
right.
So that
Yeah,
was,
there's definitely a class difference there, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but there are people that, hey, let's just finish. If I, improve on my time, that's great. And then there are, and I spend most of my time with the people that are like, hey, I want to qualify. Hey, I want to win this race. Hey, like there's a definitely a different attitude. I think it takes both kinds to make a race. Like I think I don't think you should have felt too alone, just because I think the vast majority of the field is more, hey, let's finish this race. It's a monument in and of itself to finish it, let alone in 3 months, dummy.
yeah, that's actually what I found. A lot of the old timers, or I guess like the people that really loved the sports, were actually kind of annoyed by people's perspective of just wanting to finish.
Yeah,
They thought that was sort of, I don't know, watering down is maybe the wrong word. That could be their perspective. I don't know if I would say that, but they just thought that it's like, no, like I'm here because I love to swim, to bike, and to run,
mm,
and you're here because you're trying to prove something to yourself, or because you're trying to like do a memorial to someone, or whatever the case may be. In the book,
right.
I talk about a lot of different motivations people
Yeah,
have, but I just found, it was interesting as the sport has grown. There's sort of this now. Maybe it's dramatic to say a conflict, but not really, because people were kind of annoyed at me and my presence. Like even if I was not like, hey, I'm trying to do this on a short time frame. Even when I just said, oh, I'm just here. I want to see what it's about, and see if I can do it, they were like, oh, okay, well, move along, join the club. It was kind of like,
right.
why this? This is what I love to do. And, I kind of understand that if there was something writing, like I'm very passionate about that. If someone's like,
Mm,
oh, I want to be a travel writer, I just want to see what it's like. I'm like, dude, this is my career. This is my thing. Like, back off,
yeah,
don't. So I can understand that perspective. And I don't know where you fall on that. I mean, obviously, more participation in the sport for whatever reason is probably good for the sport overall.
right,
Um, but I know Ironman has really taken over because from an outsider before I came in, you living in Hawaii, obviously you hear about Ironman a lot,
right,
but I don't really know. I couldn't tell you any other triathlon circles,
right,
but
right, right.
I'm sure that Ironman is not the only one, but
Nope.
it's become the most famous and the most,
Yes.
as they would say, iconic. So yeah,
Yeah, no, it definitely dominates. There are essentially two scenes. There's the long course scene, which is often half Ironman, Ironman, as Ironman buys up all of the races that are long course and brands them. And then there is ITU, which is International Triathlon Union, and it is a draft legal format for the professionals. So you can group up on the bike and draft in packs. So it is a more aggressive, tactical style of racing, and then it is basically a quarter of the length of an Ironman. So yeah, there's two separate worlds. If you want to be in the drafting world, you have to be a very good swimmer, because if you don't get onto the bike in good position, your day's done.
yeah, fair enough. You're
Yeah,
lost in the pack.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if, because of how like emotional training is and the race and everything, like, do you feel like that has changed you at all as a person? Do you feel any different? Are there any kind of lasting effects aside from lingering soreness, maybe?
um, yeah, I do, man. Like I appreciate you reading the book. One of the things that I was just interested was for, people like yourself to read it,
Mhm.
people who are really passionate about this, because I know I'm a dick, like I know I'm coming at this like this is your baby, and I'm like, oh, some new guy coming in. And of course, like throughout the book, like I'm doing my thing and being competitive and, poking fun when that happens, trying to be lighthearted about it. But, over the course of my experience, I didn't really expect it, but I did learn a lot of things. You know what? I have a ton of respect for triathletes now, sort of at the end of the book, talking to one of my buddies, about this idea of like perseverance, like is just such a huge human trait to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be able to, because in life, like, again, not to get too like broad, but I mean, we're talking about this breakdowns that you go through emotionally, like, you really have to dig deep, and like, if you want this, you have to go, and like, nobody's going to help you, and it has to all come within. And with something like the Ironman or, any triathlon, there are going to be hurdles, there are going to be walls, you're going to bunk, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
screw up your nutrition, you're going to get 2 flat tires before the race even starts, you're going to have saddle soreness, you're going to have digestive problems, like all of these things I've experienced and
Yep.
you can read about in great detail. So there's so many reasons to quit along the way, and nobody's going to blame you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nobody in the that I experienced was like, oh wow, well, I mean, most people were like, every time I would tell them about some of these ailments, they'd be like, well, dude, why the hell are you doing this? Like, of course you're going to have that. Like, what, and so I don't know, I'm a writer, I like to philosophize a little bit, and I think that that idea of just persevering, even when it's just like everything is telling you like this is like dumb, or like you shouldn't be doing this,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, well, it doesn't matter because I want it, and I can do it, and that power of belief, I think, is so important. And I really saw that in a lot of competitors, who, maybe didn't have a business being there or didn't think they should be there, or people told them they shouldn't be there. And that was a big drive for people, proving to themselves and others that they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I take that mentality into other aspects of life, because whether it's your career or whatever it is, there's going to be roadblocks and reasons to quit. And if you're going to quit, then you're not going to finish, right? So,
Right.
and then what was all that for, So I take that mentality away, that idea of perseverance, and that idea that no matter what comes up in front of you, you have a choice, right? And no matter how big that wall is, like, you always have that choice whether to climb it or not. And
Mm-hmm.
it's up to you whether you take it. And those who climb it finish, and those who don't, they don't, So
Yep.
that was for me, I think.
Yeah. So one of the things I was wondering is who should actually read the book? I mean, are you trying to educate average Joe about it? Should triathletes read it? And then I think if you give it to a triathlete, you should be like, make it through the first half. Like, try not to get too offended in the first half. But I mean, who are you after with this book? Who should actually pick it up?
Well, I mean, okay, like I look at this project as something like, okay, like Bill Bryson did with the App Trail, right? Like, I'm a hiker. When I read that book, I was so annoyed with him, like, for a lot of it, because it was like, all right, man, like, you are just completely kind of disrespecting something I love to do. You're
Mm-hmm.
coming at this like so naive. It doesn't even seem like you're trying to understand, right? But then when I got to the end of the book, I loved it. I was like, man, this is so like cool. Just he is like, he's trying to capture something I experience, and okay, it's not for him, but and that really introduced a lot of people, both like avid hikers and just non-hikers, to the App Trail. Now that's like a huge thing. I'm not comparing myself to Bill Bryson. He's super successful. I'm just saying, like, when I look at it, I'm like, I think anybody can read it. I tried to write it as approachable as possible, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, here's my story, and here it is. And if you want to learn what a triathlon and an Ironman's all about, and it's growing so much now that I think that everybody, even if they're not into the sport, they know someone who is.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this can give them kind of an understanding of what people are going through, and just sort of that like everyman underdog kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
And for people like you, just some perspective on your own self and your own sport. Not recognition in that sense, like, but
Mm-hmm.
just, someone has taken the time to kind of understand what you do, and, learn about it and suffer through it along with you, and just kind
Yep.
of dig into it. And I tried to make it as lighthearted as I can, because that's my personality, but I don't think there are any steak knives in there where I'm really driving it in your guys' heart and being like, you guys are stupid or wrong for doing this. It's just
Yeah.
sort of me coming in and, as an outsider, like, making light of what I see, and,
Yeah.
trying to suffer through it along with you. So I hope it's for everybody. I mean, but only you guys will judge that. I mean, you still wanted to have me on an interview after you read it, which is, I guess, a good sign. You haven't, like, and you didn't take the
well, I
opportunity
mean,
to like bash me, so that's
I
good.
can talk to just about anybody. I mean, even if I'm like, this guy's really getting on my nerves, I'd be like, all right, let's give him what's no. It's no, I think the book is enjoyable. I do before I ask you where we can get the book, I do ask everybody. So this season, which is this year of the podcast, I ask everybody the same question. It's going to be a little bit different for you. Maybe you'll give a little bit different perspective, but I ask everyone after a hard workout, or it could be a race. In your case, you only had one, so we'll say after a hard workout, if you only get to choose one food for recovery, what do you choose?
Wow. Okay. So one of the most disappointing things about this for me was that a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times after big workouts, you keep picturing in your mind, at least for me, I was like, I'm picturing a beer the size of a trash can, like get me through this. I can't wait to be done.
Yeah.
Like, this is not, but your body kind of like rejects that. Like you
Yep.
get into this spot where you think like you're imagining this cold beer all the time. And then you get there at the end of the workout and it's in your hand and it just doesn't taste very good. So that was kind of disappointing. I thought that was really cruel about this sport, is that like motivation of food the whole time, but by the time you've had like 10 goos and 3 Cliff Bars, you're kind of in the Gatorade, you're kind of like, yeah. So but for me, man, I'm pretty standard, dude. I'm a chicken and mashed potatoes kind of guy, or
Okay.
chicken and baked potato. So a lot of my workouts were just, after that I would eat very plain and simple, either mostly a chicken breast with some baked potatoes. And for me, that's like protein and carbs, super good, really easy to cook. You just put it in the oven and forget about it for a while. And so that's what I usually went with. I had all these visions of, after the attempt at the Ironman, what I was going to eat and da-da-da-da. But as you guys will read about and you've read about, by the time it was over, I couldn't even eat. So it was so
Yeah.
disappointing, man. I just
Yep.
really, that was actually, thanks for bringing it up. I actually, this was like that was the most discouraging part of the whole thing, was like, really? My body, this is cruel. All that, and now I can't even have my final feast. Come on. That's,
Yep. Yep.
yeah. So chicken and potatoes, buddy. Yeah.
Chicken and potatoes. All right. Well, as we're recording this, this isn't out yet, but it will be as soon as if you're watching this, it is available. Where can people pick up the book and read about your adventure?
So the book should be at bookstores across the country, Barnes & Noble, etc. But obviously, welcome to 2019. The easiest way is to just jump online, Swim, Bike, BONK, Will McGough. You'll find it on Amazon and a bunch of different retailers, and you can buy the book that way. And I hope that if it annoys you or you get pleasure out of it or whatever, you just want to talk shop, hit me up. You can find my email, and I'm pretty approachable. So love to talk about the book sometime if you're interested.
And you are low on social media profiles, as I am as well. But if people want to find you, wakeandwander.com.
Yeah, my company is Wake and Wander. If you type that in, you'll find it. Yeah, wakeandwander.com. Will McGough is my name. I'm on Facebook and stuff like that. And will@wakeandwander.com is my email, which you can also find on the internet. So I'm a low profile in terms of how much I post, but you can find me on there. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming on today, Will.
Jesse, thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate it.
Take care.